Welcome back to Oral's Digest. This week, we are to recap something and also discover something else. So we did a video, it's somewhere here, where the producer dared me to do the same video in 4 different languages. That's English, Sheng, if you consider it a different language, Kiswahili, and Luo, which you speak. After that, we started reviewing the videos and we were laughing and we decided to rank all the 4 videos with the different languages. So for some weird reason, Kiswahili was number 1, and then Luo number 2, and then Sheng, and then English. So we started asking ourselves like, what made the videos different? And we got into a language philosophy argument for that. And so we started off with English. That English was very flat, and there's a history behind why that is the case. Unknown to so many people, the English world or the UK has very different accents, from the barely incomprehensible Scottish accent to the very comical Scousey accent in Liverpool.
We did. Every player was boss, and the one that I'm mentioning now, Sadio Mane, I said it last time I was on it, he's the best football player in the world. I don't know why he's laughing for. Chris, why are you laughing for? Why are you laughing for? I'm being serious. No.
You to fucking stand up, you sack of fucking cum. Stand the fuck up.
If you look at their history, before England became a kingdom about almost 1,000 years ago, they were made up of different tribes: the Angles, the Saxons, the Kents, the Cornish people, the Britons, the Celts. And it was King Alfred the Great who unified all these tribes and set up the English kingdom. Now, because there were different tribes that made up England, similar to how Kenya has the Maasai, the Luo, the Luo, everyone had the original language. So over time, English became the language, but there were regional dialects that were there. Now, as the aristocracy grew, they decided they wanted to do away with their regional identity. So they made English language flat so that it sounds more gentle. And a very good example is like the word mother initially was spoken as mother. And so they made it less, more gentle, if it may. And over time, this particular way of speaking was known as RP, or receiver pronunciation, which also is known as BBC English. So the UK government decided that the RP is the standard English that is spoken around the UK. Now, while English was doing away with its regional harshness, if I may call so, languages like Kiswahili was busy imbibing the Arabic melodical, poetic way of speaking. That's why it sounds a bit great.
Naelekea Moshi.
Moshi wapi?
Moshi mjini.
Mjini unakula maini? Na na uhu.
Vipi? Wajukuu wa jambo?
Wajukuu walimleta ule kuku akanishuku, hajajua jambo, najua mambo, kwenda ng'ambo kumsaka mgambo.
Mbona maneno hivi?
Maneno na kuna meno.
And then when we thought about the Luo language, like, have you ever heard English spoken in the fluid, flamboyant, and finesse Luo accent? Hear this.
We don't need amendment in this constitution. We need full referendum. Article 257, section 10. Theory of masses, not theory of numbers or MPs or senators. Are you understanding me?
I got thinking about, like, where did the Luos get their accent? And I started tracing the migratory patterns and originally where the Luos came from. So, from history, the Luos were actually the Dinka. The Dinka was the dominant tribe in South Sudan. Then one tribe broke from the Dinka, which are the Nuer tribe in that. Now, about 1,000 years ago, that was in 1010 AD, there was a Nuer king who was known as Luo Atiak, and is thought of as being the father of the Luo. So this is a theory, and the word Luo actually means follow, and it comes from his name Luo Atiak, which means the followers of Atiak. So if you are a follower of Atiak, you say, I am a follower. And then that's hence where the word Luo comes from. Now, Luo got, his kingdom got attacked by the Arabs from moving from the north coming down. And he decided he wants to move his kingdom far much lower, South Sudan, to where currently is known as Bahr el Ghazal. When he got there, the Nuer tribe got in contact with another tribe known as the Madi tribe. So the Madi is a Nilotic tribe, but speaks a little bit different. Now, if you listen to the current speak of the Nuer, it sounds very like the Kalenjin tribe. Like how the Kalenjin speak on the northern Nilotic tribes, the Samburu, and speak like that. It's a very tap, 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 tap way of speaking. Now, Uluotiak ended up marrying a lot of the Madi women were there, and he set up his own kingdom. The fusion of the Madi tribe and the Nuer is what gave birth to the Luo as we know it today, the Luo in Kenya and Uganda. And they're the first tribe that had an inflection on the Luo language. So they were taking the Nuer language at that point and finessing it with the Madi tribe. And one evidence for that is if you check the Nuer word for teacher, there is no word for teacher. Exactly, it's really a borrowed word. But the Madi word for teacher is Lapuoji. The current Luo word for teacher is Japuonj, which is something that was borrowed from the Madi tribe. And then now the new generations of being born out of the Madi and the Nuer became the Luo. And still now this is the area between northern Uganda and South Sudan. Now, due to a lot of tribal wars and internal conflict, this new Luo tribe split this place. Some moved westwards to Uganda and ended up in Congo, and these are known as the Atiak. So they still retain the initial name of, let's call it the godfather of the language. So the Atiak people live in the border of Uganda and DRC Congo. Now, the rest of the Luos moved a little bit lower. That's where you find the Acholi, you find the Lango, and you find the Padola in Uganda. Now, like, oh, this story sounds very interesting. So I did a little bit of an exercise. I took a spreadsheet, this one here, and took all the common words like the words like cow, mother, house, the words that tend to be representing the homestead, father, mother, sister, and things like that. And I placed all the Luo sub-tribes that are there and asked anyone who could help to fill in how they refer to that particular person or object in the particular tribe. So I ended up with this very nice data set. Then I did a little bit of analysis and did something which in data is referred as string distance. So for example, in Kenya, a daughter is known, in the Kenyan Luo, a daughter is known as Nyar. Then you'll find in Uganda and South Sudan, they say Nya. So there's a difference of the R in this case. And then so using the string distance to measure how one word is very different from this other word. Now using that, take that and put it up on a chart. And it was so interesting that the story about Luo Atiak and the schism that happened within the tribe is very evident because you can see the northern Luos, which are like in Uganda, their words tend to cluster together, and the ones in Kenya. Now, the Kenya Luos are very much closer in terms of speech to the Padola, who are in Tororo district, in that if you listen to a clip, a Kenyan listening to a Padola, almost 80 to 90% of whatever they say is understandable. These two languages are mutually intelligible. And it's actually thought that most of the Kenyan Luos broke off from the Padola. But there's also a very uncanny resemblance to the Luos in Ethiopia, called the Anuak, and the other smaller ones in South Sudan. Now, after creating this really interesting map, as I was doing the research, I came upon a very interesting theory. The researcher known as Christoph Koop, who came up with a concept known as acoustic adaptation. And he was doing research on birds. So he was measuring the frequency of words on birds. Birds are in very dense forests, the one in savannas and the ones that are in deserts. And he realized that birds that were predominantly in forested areas had a high pitch, and birds that were in desert areas had a much more lower pitch. And he created a theory that tried to explain accents using vegetation and the general temperature in the area. Because if you're in a forested area, then you need to project your voice because there's so many barriers, trees, shrubs, and etc. So your voice needs to go further. Yeah? But when you're in a desert, your voice tends to travel a little bit easier because there are no obstacles. So you don't need to have a very high-pitched voice. So next time when you hear a Luo say, Omera, you know it's a very high-pitched voice. So I did a mapping on the vegetation on the migration of the Luos according to research and other folk tastes that are there. So given the story of Luo Tiak from South Sudan into a bit northern Uganda, the split to Congo, the one to southern Uganda to Acholi, then as you can see in this particular diagram, northern Uganda is a desert-like area as it goes into South Sudan. And as you get into the southern part where Tororo is, the vegetation is higher. Then now I compared the accents through listening of the northern Luos in Uganda and the southern ones. And I was like, there it is. The northern Luo in Uganda sounds like Luo spoken in a Kalenjin accent. Yeah, it's very tap, 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 tap. But then, once you cross that desert-like area and get into Tororo, that's when you get the tonal value. Tonal languages are languages that feel musical. Yeah, Idenade, Iwachango. Yeah, but if you say that into the northern Uganda, like Iwachango, Idenade. That's how the northern Ugandans take it. So the vegetation passing through that part, there is some good evidence that mellowed. It made it a little bit musical and high-pitched language. So there you have it. Where did the Luos get their accent? From the Madi tribe and for the dense forest in Uganda and Western Kenya. Until next time, Madhunyuka Bwana. Yani Buddha, after kuachiva uweze subscribe hapa. Bado je subscribe? Hey, and I have more videos here.